Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've been on this journey with us into the reality transurfing model, you know we've already navigated the strange, swirling world of pendulums.
Those energetic structures that feed on our focus and our emotion.
Exactly. We've learned how those external forces try to, manipulate our reality. But today, we are moving past the external threats, past the waves of fortune, and right to the core architecture of personal reality.
Right. To the structural engineering of, well, both self-sabotage and effortless success.
This deep dive is really for anyone who's ever felt like the universe is just actively working against them.
Yeah, if you feel like you're perpetually fighting the world tooth and nail for every single success, or maybe you've even reached a massive goal, the dream job, the perfect house.
And then you get there and it just feels empty.
Exactly, that strange sense of disillusionment. If that's you, then this specific knowledge from the transurfing model is absolutely essential. We're extracting some critical knowledge today, specifically focusing on the foundational concepts of balance and the really sophisticated process of identifying your true goals and the correct doors to walk through.
So our mission today is to fundamentally understand the mechanism by which we unknowingly create our own obstacles. It's not just about realizing that we're fighting, it's understanding why the universe is pushing back. We need to dissect how our well-meaning efforts, our intense desires, and all that struggle actually summons this cosmic wind to knock us down.
Often just steps away from the finish line. And this is the fundamental paradox we're going to unlock today. We'll learn that the struggle itself is the trap.
The struggle is the trap.
Yes. True happiness, true success, it isn't waiting on the other side of some immense obstacle you have to climb over. It's accessed right here, right now, by eliminating a single fundamental disturbance in the energy field.
And that is excess potential.
That's it. That is where the key to effortless navigation and true personal freedom lies. We're aiming for flow, not fight.
Okay, let's unpack this core idea because it sounds a little esoteric, but it has the most immediate tangible consequences in our daily lives. The source calls it excess potential, or EP. What is this energetic disturbance that transurfing warns us about?
So think of the stable energy field as a perfectly calm, still body of water. Excess potential is defined as tension, a localized disturbance, like a big ripple or a pressure point in that stable field.
Okay, so disruption.
A disruption. And this tension is created when any object, be it a person, an item, an outcome, anything, is attributed excessive and disproportionate meaning.
We call that importance.
Exactly, importance.
So it's not the feeling of wanting a new car that's the problem. It's the intensity of it.
Yeah.
The attachment to that desire that generates the ripple.
Precisely. If you're indifferent to the outcome, there is no EP, zero. But the moment you start pouring massive, focused emotional energy into that object, you create an energetic imbalance.
And that can be positive or negative, right? Intense desire or intense aversion.
Yes, that's a key point. The tension arises when you intensely desire to draw an object of attraction to a place where it's not naturally present, like desperately wanting someone who is just not available.
Right. Or the other way around.
Or conversely, when you have a deep, passionate aversion to something you desperately want to avoid, like the fear of failing a huge project at work.
That's fascinating. So a passionate wish to get out of debt creates the same kind of energetic disturbance as the passionate desire to win the lottery.
It's the same energetic differential. It doesn't matter if it's attraction or aversion. Both are localized tensions that are basically demanding a state change from the universe.
And the universe has to respond to that demand.
It has a mandatory automatic response, which is the law of balanced forces.
Let's focus on those balanced forces for a moment, because this feels like where the self-sabotage mechanism is really revealed. The universe doesn't have a vested interest in our personal well-being, does it?
Not at all. It's impersonal. When EP is generated, the universe immediately deploys these balanced forces. The easiest way to think of them is like a restorative wind. Their only objective is to restore equilibrium.
So they're just trying to flatten the ripple that I created.
Yes. And it's critical to remember their goal is not your personal happiness or success. They don't make moral judgments. They are simply there to eliminate the differential you created.
And if I am intensely pushing for success, generating massive EP through all my striving and anxiety, the balanced forces come in to restore balance by what? Pushing back against me.
Correct. The consequence is usually the opposite of what you intended. The impact of these balanced forces is often aimed at reducing your influence on the world, affecting your status, your work, your income, your health.
It's trying to bring me back to the norm.
or even below it, to counter the huge energetic weight you've placed on the world. This is the mechanism that explains why millions of people can battle and labor relentlessly, yet true, effortless success only seems to come to those who somehow manage to minimize that EP.
Because the struggle itself becomes this feedback loop.
Exactly. It generates the very balanced forces that ensure their downfall.
I need a concrete example. Let's say I'm intensely striving for a huge promotion. I'm losing sleep, I'm obsessing, I'm generating huge EP. How do the balanced forces actually show up?
Okay, so they look like bad luck. They look like unexpected obstacles. Because you've placed such massive importance on that promotion, balanced forces will interfere to reduce that importance.
Oh.
Suddenly, a client you've relied on for years leaves, or your computer crashes and you lose the critical presentation file. Or maybe you just get sick the day of the big interview.
Wow.
It looks like misfortune, but from this perspective, it's just the universe trying to neutralize the severe energetic push you initiated. The tension has to be released, and it's usually released by destroying the attachment you created.
That desperate wanting, the anxiety, that's the classic symptom of EP. It feels like you're fighting gravity.
It does. It makes you buzz like a fly against a window pane. You waste a colossal amount of energy, and the struggle only intensifies the very EP you're trying to overcome.
Okay, let's get into some specific emotional states that the book calls out as pure EP. It starts with resentment and judgment. We're often taught that expressing dissatisfaction is normal, It's just venting.
Well, in the transurfing model, this is completely inverted. Expressing dissatisfaction and judgment, even if you feel it's completely justified because the situation is objectively bad,
Right.
it will always turn the balanced forces against you. Always.
Right.
Because you're attributing excessive negative importance to an external thing. The book calls it extremely disadvantageous to the self.
So if I'm at the dinner table and I spend 20 minutes passionately judging a celebrity's bad decision or complaining about the incompetence of some political system, I'm not just venting. I'm actively creating an energetic disturbance that's going to come back and hit me.
That is precisely the mechanism. The negative response habit substitutes a positive energy transmission with a negative one. You radiate negative energy, the pendulum you're judging gets that energy, it swings harder, and the situation gets worse.
And crucially, my own focus on the negative shifts me onto a negative lifeline.
Exactly. You concentrate your thought energy on things getting worse, so you attract lifelines where things genuinely are worse than before.
It's a self-fulfilling negative prophecy.
Yes.
Which brings us to guilt. This seems like a particularly insidious channel for energy drainage.
Guilt is maybe the most destructive form of subconscious excess potential. It's so powerful because it's often imposed on us from childhood. It serves as a classic method of social manipulation.
If you are guilty, you must obey.
Right, or you must compensate in some way. The source says the guilty wander around paying tribute to the pendulum in the form of energy, and they often don't even know they're doing it.
But if guilt is imposed on you, a child being made to feel guilty by a parent, how is it still my fault that I'm generating EP? That sounds a little harsh.
That's a really important question. The distinction is in the mechanism of reality creation. It's not about moral fault. It's about energetic resonance.
No.
Guilt, or even a strong sense of duty, which is a specialized form of guilt, implies submission. The subconscious thought that registers with the mirror of reality is, I've done something wrong, I'm unworthy, I must be punished.
So when the heart and mind agree that retribution is deserved, even subconsciously,
that retribution will be reflected in the mirror of reality.
And the universe delivers the consequences. Accidents, inconveniences, misfortunes. It's like an open channel for manipulators and pendulums to just drain our vitality.
Yes, the person is operating in a state of unworthiness, and that's exactly what pendulums strike a chord in, draining their energy. People consumed by guilt often find themselves in these repetitive, negative scenarios, constantly being taken advantage of because they are subconsciously ordering this reality.
So if guilt is so pervasive, especially if it's deeply ingrained, what's the practical, actionable solution? We can't just flip a switch and get rid of it.
No, the solution is a clever external action that leads to an internal change. It creates a new feedback loop. You have to stop justifying yourself to others unless it is absolutely necessary.
Stop justifying yourself.
When you're accused or blamed, your default should be non-reaction. Don't take the blame publicly. Don't accept the imposition of guilt.
That seems incredibly difficult. If a coworker blames me for a missed deadline, instead of defending myself with a long justification, what does transurfing suggest I do? Just be silence.
Silence, or a concise, non-emotional statement. Something like, I understand your perspective, or that's noted. The whole point is to break the feedback chain.
Okay.
If you adopt this habit, manipulators realize they won't get the desired output from you, that surge of EP, the acceptance of blame, and they just leave you alone. This external form eventually tidies up the inner content. By refusing to act guilty, the feeling of guilt eventually loses its root and disappears.
So you're not feeding the pendulum. It's an act of boundary setting that uses energetic principles instead of confrontation. That's a powerful tool. That leads us perfectly into relationships, which are notorious breeding grounds for EP. Transurfing really challenges our ideas about love, especially around idealization. We're taught that putting someone on a pedestal is romantic.
It's the reverse side of dissatisfaction, but with the exact same result. When you idealize, you overestimate something. You place it on a pedestal and you worship it, creating an idol.
And that creates massive EP.
Massive, because you are seeing something that is not really there. It's an energetically distorted version of reality. You're projecting an impossible ideal onto a flawed, mortal human being.
And as soon as I elevate a person to a godlike status, I create this monumental energetic difference between my perception and their reality. What happens then?
The balance forces have to act. Idealization and overestimation always inevitably end in disillusionment.
The pedestal has to be knocked over.
It has to be. The classic example is falling passionately in love with someone's potential only to be crushed when they reveal their very human flaws. The EP is released through disappointment, conflict, and separation. The moment you place conditions on the relationship, you must be perfect for me, you create dependent relationships, and you generate EP.
So what's the difference between that EP-generating idealization and true, unconditional love?
True love is described in the source as dispassionate and unemotional, not cold, but free of dependency.
Admiration without worship.
Exactly. Admiration without the need to possess. It celebrates the person as they are without distortion. If you want to experience reciprocal, lasting love, you have to let go of the right to possess. You accept them as a gift, not a possession.
That's a radical shift. And this applies to self-perception too, right? Contempt, vanity, self-criticism, these are all just different flavors of EP.
Yes, contempt and vanity are described as unique vices, often fueled by pendulums of competition and social comparison. Think of the contrast with nature. A wolf hunting is majestic in its functional perfection, but it's completely unaware of its own greatness. It feels no pride, no vanity.
But our conscious awareness brings in all the rubbish of feelings, as the book says. Guilt, inferiority, and on the other side, vanity.
Exactly. It's an aggressive elevation or reduction of importance. And it works internally, too. If we are dissatisfied with our own shortcomings, and that turns inward, it becomes a destructive inner battle.
The relentless, self-critical inner dialogue. But we're taught that self-criticism is necessary for improvement. Transurfing says this is actually undermining us.
It is extremely undermining. It creates a split between the mind and the heart, or soul. In this model, the heart is perfect and self-sufficient. The shortcomings are of the mind, its logic, its conditioning.
So when the mind is constantly criticizing the heart, you generate self-directed EP.
Yes. And the key to resolving that is radical self-acceptance and forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself for perceived imperfections. The inner battle must be stopped. You have to allow yourself the luxury of being you, flaws and all.
Because the universe doesn't care about the flaws, just the EQ we generate by obsessing over them.
Precisely. Trying to hide weaknesses creates the opposite effect. The book uses the example of a shy person trying to hide their shyness by acting overly cheeky, which just draws more attention to the awkwardness.
This all hinges on that central concept we touched on earlier, importance. The source calls it the most common cause of excess potential.
It's the fuel for almost all balanced forces intervention. It's created when we attribute excessive conscious meaning to anything, and we can categorize it into two forms.
All right.
First, inner or personal importance, the overestimation of one's own virtues. I am an important person, I deserve special treatment.
Which leads to the hotshot getting a swift slap from balanced forces. And the reverse of that, the debilitating self-deprecation, that's also inner importance.
Absolutely. The level of EP generated is the same. The only difference is the positive or negative sign. Overexaltation or extreme self-belittling both generate a significant energetic push that balanced forces have to neutralize.
And then there's outer importance. That seems to be the one that trips most people up when they're setting goals.
That's attributing excessive emotional meaning to an external object or event. The sale of this house is extremely important, or the outcome of this job interview must be X, or my life is ruined.
The high-stakes anxiety.
It intensely amplifies the EP, guaranteeing balanced forces will intervene.
Which brings us to the golden rule. How do we diffuse importance on the spot?
The golden rule is mandatory. Before you try to solve any problem, big or small, you have to consciously reduce the level of importance you associate with it. If you can lower the EP, you prevent balanced forces from interfering, allowing the problem to be solved quickly and easily.
It's like turning off the magnet for bad luck.
Exactly.
But what if I genuinely can't reduce the importance? If the stakes really are high, a major medical procedure, a career-defining moment, how do you trick your mind into letting go?
If you can't reduce the importance, the source suggests creating a deliberate alternative, a safety net, a plan B, by accepting the possibility of defeat beforehand, or knowing that not getting the goal wouldn't be catastrophic because you have a viable alternative. You diffuse the intensity. It transforms the goal from a desperate necessity into a preference.
So instead of clinging to the outcome, you create an internal narrative that says, I prefer this, but if I don't get it, I'll be fine.
Exactly. You neutralize the fear and the intense attachment, and the universe responds by ceasing to push back.
Okay, so if eliminating EP is about achieving internal balance, the next step is direction. Where do we point that balanced energy? Transurfing introduces a fundamental conflict here. The pursuit of false goals versus true goals.
Yes. The central conflict for most people is that they're pursuing false goals, which are always punishing, coerced, and feel like this tremendous obligation.
Like marching after a mirage created by pendulums.
Exactly. These goals appear in the guise of fashion and prestige. The perfect house, the yacht, the right social circle. They attract you with their apparent unattainability, making you feel special just for striving for them.
And they often force you to prove something, either to yourself or to others.
Right, or they primarily serve someone else's vision. You become a puppet for a particular pendulum.
And chasing a goal that isn't your own, that demands an immense toll, doesn't it?
Immense. It demands so much energy and hard work, the kind of struggle we just identified as fueling EP. You either fail and give away colossal energy to the pendulum, or worse.
You achieve the goal only to find that profound, gut-wrenching disillusionment. This was what I wanted after all.
Exactly, because happiness was never waiting on the other side of that particular lifeline. The mind, trapped by pendulums, drags the soul toward a life that simply doesn't belong to it.
So how do we find the goals that transform life into a celebration? The ones that seem to achieve themselves like clockwork because they align with our soul's destiny.
Well, the true goals come from the heart, or the soul. The mind has to intentionally step aside because it's so often filled with plaque from pendulums, those conditioned beliefs that have nothing to do with personal destiny.
So it's about feeling a deep affinity, not achieving a status symbol.
It is. The source offers a wonderful, tangible analogy for this. The shopping test.
Oh, I like this.
It's incredibly useful because it bypasses the analytical mind. When you're choosing something like a new coat, just observe without stress or analysis. Don't involve the mind. The right item, the one aligned with your soul, will instantly draw you in. The soul says a quiet, certain yes. If you feel delighted straight away, that's the sign.
But if there's inner tension or doubt, or you're choosing it based on practicality,
that indicates a foreign goal, a bad purchase, a decision rooted in the mind's logic rather than the soul's desire.
we have to cut through the mind's justifications. So if a goal appears, how do we use a practical filter to verify if it's real?
Use the two-question filter. Ask yourself, 1, do I really need it? And then even more seriously, 2, but seriously no, do I really need it?
Okay.
The key is watching your emotional response to the thought of letting it go. The test of a foreign goal is whether abandoning it brings a feeling of immense relief.
Wow. If you drop the goal and feel unburdened, it was foreign,
Yeah,
an obligation.
exactly. But if letting it go causes instant indignation or protest from your core, if the thought of losing it makes you feel like you're being robbed of something essential, it's highly likely it's truly yours.
It sounds like the goal selection process is purely about intuition and inner feeling, completely separate from calculating the logistics. That's where the mind usually jumps in and derails everything.
That separation is absolutely crucial. The mind's fundamental mistake is that it tries to evaluate how achievable the goal is from the very beginning.
Right, it runs through all the ways it could go wrong.
And that attunes your thought energy to a lifeline of bad luck. It's generating negative EP. You have to firmly decide on the goal first, set the destination, and then trust that the door, the correct path, will present itself later.
This brings us to a major transurfing paradox that overturns so much conventional success advice. Money as an attribute, not a goal. Most people think you have to get rich first, so you can then pursue your dream.
That approach is the definition of a mind trap that creates severe EP. If you focus intensely on getting rich first, say, grinding in a job you hate for 10 years so you can then travel the world, you are attaching excessive importance to the money itself. You're making the means the goal.
And the transurfing model says money is only an accompanying attribute on the path to a true goal.
Yes. So the energetic focus should remain solely on the original true goal: the travel, the art, the discovery. The financial means will simply materialize because the path requires it.
So you're saying the money will follow automatically because it's an essential component of the target lifeline you've set.
That's the principle of outer intention. You set the target slide, the destination, and the energy of the alternatives flow takes over. The money follows on as a necessary byproduct. The main task, ironically, is to reduce the importance of capital to a minimum.
Because if you create massive EP around money,
you attract balanced forces that interfere with your financial flow. You have to trust the alternative space. If you have the pure will to achieve your true goal, a way will present itself, and the resources will be part of that way.
This shift is profound. So once the true goal is set, that vector of the flow, the technique shifts again. It becomes less about strenuous effort and more about conscious control of our attitude and importance. This is the strategy of the maker.
This is where we stop being victims and become active participants. The world is a dispassionate mirror, and your mental outlook determines the layer of reality you inhabit. The key principle here is that every event has two branches, one favorable and one unfavorable. Your job, as the maker, is to consciously choose which branch you take, every single time.
And this leads to coordinating intention, which is a truly paradoxical technique. It requires turning negatives into positives, even when they feel objectively terrible.
Coordinating intention is a conscious declaration. It means if you encounter what seems like a negative change, terrible traffic, a sudden cancellation, you choose to perceive that change deliberately and immediately as positive.
You declare that this annoyance is actually leading you to a better outcome.
Yes. This works because negativity and dissatisfaction automatically tune you to the unfavorable branch. A positive, declarative attitude maintains the norm of good fortune.
Okay, let's break that down. I'm rushing to an important meeting. I hit gridlock. My mind instantly screams, I'm going to be late. I've failed. That's EP in tuning into the unfavorable branch.
Well,
what does the maker do?
The maker's intention is, I manage my world in the way I see fit. So instead of reacting, you internally declare, this traffic is protecting me from an issue up ahead, or this delay is putting me in the perfect place at the perfect time for something better.
So you're not just being blindly optimistic.
No, you're performing an intentional act of reality creation. You're declaring any event beneficial, and the world, the mirror, has to comply because you've eliminated the EP that attracts the negative branch.
If I consciously hold the intention that every event is moving me closer to my goal, the universe stops fighting me because I've stopped fighting the event.
Precisely. You shift from inner intention, I must push through this traffic, to outer intention, I allow the world to deliver me to my goal perfectly.
This sounds a bit like visualization, but transurfing's target slide technique is fundamentally different, isn't it? It's more about sensory immersion.
It's much deeper. Typical visualization often just concentrates desire on a static object. Desire is focusing on the goal. Intention in transurfing is focusing on the movement towards the goal.
So you have to visualize the process.
Yes. The mental picture of the goal is only the background. You have to imagine yourself inside the slide as if the goal is already achieved. Live in it. Touch the leather of the steering wheel in the car you want. Feel the satisfaction of the handshake. Smell the air in the place you wish to travel.
And this systematic visualization creates a self-reinforcing circle.
The feeling of achieving the goal brings the energy of that desired lifeline into your present moment.
But if we're constantly struggling with desire and the fear of failure, the very things that create EP, how do we purify our intention to reach that dispassionate will to have that's necessary for outer intention to kick in?
This is the acceptance paradox, and it's the master key. To purify intention, the mind has to come to terms with the possibility of defeat beforehand.
You have to be okay with failing.
You have to run the scenario of defeat in your mind a few times. What would happen if I failed the interview? What would I do next? You establish that plan B or safety net we talked about. This act of accepting defeat transforms the desperate high EP desire into the calm, dispassionate will to have.
By accepting the worst-case scenario, you neutralize its energetic power over you. It's like cutting the wire to the bomb.
Exactly. When that intense, demanding desire is translated into the calm determination to act, the energy you were channeling into the potential disaster just disperses. When intention is pure, free of desire, conditions, doubt, it becomes outer intention.
The mighty force that chooses the most favorable lifelines.
That's it. It's the effortless force that moves reality.
So the ultimate takeaway here completely counters that idea drilled into us by society, that success requires fighting and grinding and struggle.
The pendulum's rule is always fight and do as I do. Transurfing counters this by saying you do not have to struggle. You simply have the right to choose and receive.
Any pressure you feel is just the result of importance.
Exactly. When importance is abandoned, the need to push transforms into the will to have, and you enter the state of flow. You have to allow the world to carry out your intentions, rather than constantly demanding, fearing, or doubting the process.
The moment you let go and stop holding the world at its throat.
The world immediately becomes friendly and obedient, because you're no longer acting as a magnet for problems.
And that transition is tangible, you can feel it.
You feel the effort dissolve. It's the difference between rowing furiously upstream against a strong current and just turning the boat around and allowing the alternative's flow to carry you downriver to your destination. The destination is the same, but the energetic cost is zero.
Wow. We have truly uncovered the core mechanism of self-sabotage excess potential and identified the pathway to our genuine destiny through the heart's quiet guidance. The takeaway is so clear. Your inner landscape, controlled by importance, dictates your outer reality.
By reducing importance, accepting ourselves completely, and consciously choosing to see every event, even setbacks, as moving us toward our goal, we fundamentally cease fighting the world. We stop being puppets of pendulums and victims of circumstance.
We become the maker, shaping our world layer not through strenuous effort, but through purified, effortless intention and just going with the alternative's flow.
This shift from demanding to allowing, from intense effort to dispassionate determination, that is the entire architecture of transurfing success.
It's a huge shift in perspective.
It is. And remember, the world around you is a dispassionate mirror. It delivers your order perfectly. If you are convinced you must fight for every inch of success, the mirror delivers you a fight. But if you allow yourself the luxury of being yourself, flaws and all, if you reduce the stakes, and if you choose to believe you are already on the most favorable lifeline, what does the mirror reflect back to you right now? The choice to stop struggling and simply to receive is the immediate, powerful act of creation available to you in this very moment.